everybody. Welcome to the Mafia Means Family podcast.
I'm Mafia Mom.
I am Mini Mafia. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more awesome content.
Hey, Mini Mafia, how you doing this week?
I've been doing good.
Yeah? Anything new going on outside of football?
Yeah, a little bit at school. We're starting this new thing. So some of the 6th graders get to during guidance study, which is kind of like a study hall. We get to go around the classrooms and recycle.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good use of your time, right? Better than just sitting there, and you get to help the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Well, now we'll talk about the reason why we're here. What did you think of that Bills game last week? Washington.
Man, it was insane.
It was an interesting game, right?
Yeah.
So what'd you think of it, though? What were your thoughts on it?
Well, all around the defense played probably one of the best games I've at least seen. I've been watching, I think, for 45 years.
About that, yeah. About 5 years, yeah.
And the Dolphins played a pretty good game. So, honestly, I think it was an overall good game.
Yeah. I would agree. I think the defense obviously played lights out. That was incredible to watch them take over a game like that. McDermott has proven to be very, very effective against young QBs. I think I saw a stat the other day that he's undefeated in QBs making one of their first 5 starts. So he's obviously very good at stopping or confusing opposing young quarterbacks, which is what a good defensive coordinator should be able to do. I remember Bill Belichick for the longest time was like 20-0 against rookie quarterbacks because he could confuse them. And you could see that's what the defense did. They threw a lot of looks at him. They did a lot of movement after the snap, things like that the Bills honestly don't normally do. So it was great to see that. Mafia Sports Report coming in here with Squish the Fish. Now, Mini Mafia is probably going to be, he's definitely too young, and many of you may be too young to remember this. Well, not to really, like, where this really started. So,
I know what it means.
Yeah, you know what it means, but this started back when I was a kid. So, throughout the 80s.
Dan Marino.
Yep. So, throughout the 70s, the Dolphins beat us 20 straight games. It was disgusting. I'm glad I wasn't alive for that. The 80s kind of went back and forth. We beat them the very first game of the 80s. I think that's the game where they took down the goalposts in the rock pile, the old Bill Stadium. But then in the 90s, that rivalry really heated up between Kelly and Marino. I still believe, and I think I said this last year when we played the Dolphins, Kelly's the biggest reason why Marino doesn't have a ring. I remember, and many of you out there who are at least my age should remember, the Buffalo News used to send out those things to hang in your window that would have different sayings on them for the different teams that we played. And whenever we played the Dolphins, they would say "squish the fish," and it was just a very, very big deal. We know Dolphins aren't fish, but it's still a great saying. So absolutely squish the fish. We're going to get into that game in a little bit for sure. I would say that going into the fourth quarter, obviously the defense played amazing, but going into the fourth quarter with only 16 points, given how dominant the defense had been, it was a little concerning. We settled for 4 field goals. Now, one of those, I think, had a lot to do with the refs. What did you think of the refs in that game? We don't normally talk about the refs. I think calls go both ways, but what did you think of the refs in those games?
The refs absolutely sucked.
They definitely did. That tripping call on Kincaid, that was bad. The turnover that they called forward progress. I've never seen a guy catch a ball and be hit so fast that you're not 100% sure it's a catch, and somehow they call forward progress. But anyway, I digress. There was something that has haunted the Bills every year of Josh Allen's career, other than 2020, which I think reared its ugly head on Sunday, and that's drops. The Bills had the second highest drop percentage in the NFL last season, and that was after leading the NFL most of the year. Gabe Davis had the most drops among all regularly targeted receivers last year, and we saw that pop up in this game. Dawson Knox dropped a touchdown. Gabe Davis, who's usually very good for toe tapping, couldn't get his foot in. Davis dropped another pass, a deep one. And then Diggs, I don't know if that ball got tipped or not. I was trying to tell on the replay. Maybe it did, but it looked like he had a drop too. So that's 4 drops. If you add those back, Allen threw for like 10% higher in completion percentage. So the drops have to end. But other than that, I think it was a very, very impressive game for sure. What do you think of that? The drops and the offense just struggling a little bit to finish off drives.
I definitely think that the offense could have been a lot better, especially with the drops. But the refs also kind of that they were handing Washington the game. I'm not excusing the drops, but like we definitely need to work on the drops. But the refs also need to be a lot more fair.
Yeah, the refs were rough. I think most games there's bad calls that go in both directions, and very rarely are there games where the refs are the deciding factor. Thankfully, um, in that game though, and like again, I know we won by 34 points. This sounds so petty, but if you don't call it out every time, you can't call it out when it matters. I think all the calls that were iffy or bad calls went in Washington's favor, and that's just it's not acceptable. I wish they would switch to a sky ref and let New York make the calls. I think they have a better view of it, but either way, we'll move on. So, players of the game for the Washington game. What do you got here? Players of the game, Mini
I
Mafia.
want you to go first.
You want me to go first? Okay. For the offense, I know that we had quite a few players who contributed, but I got to give it to the offensive line, man. Washington came in tied for the lead in sacks. They kept Allen clean all day. When the pocket did break down, he had holes to escape through. I don't know why Washington didn't put a spy on him all day. But that offensive line seriously played really, really well. They opened up holes in the run game. The one play, I think it was in the second half where Allen threw out of the end zone. We had gotten pinned. It was after the Trey White interception. We gotten pinned deep. If you go back and watch that play, watch Deion Dawkins, the left tackle. He is on Chase Young one-on-one, and he gives Chase Young a tour of the right side of our offensive line. That's how far he moved him out of Allen's way. And it was just beautiful. I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but a hold in the end zone on the offense is a safety. So you had to be really careful down there. And it was perfectly legal. It was unbelievable. The way he manhandled him was really impressive at that point in the game when Allen was dropping back for a pretty deep drop to be in our own end zone. So that's to me. What about you? Who's your offensive player of the game?
My offensive player of the game is Diggs.
Diggs, okay. And what about Diggs' performance did you like?
Well, he definitely had a good game. Honestly, I think most of it was because of his brother Trayvon. Just a couple of days before he tore his ACL in practice. No man should go out like that. And when especially a family member or just like a really good friend goes out like that, I think that honestly, I think that they would like kind of like Alan did with I
his
think
grandma.
his grandma.
Mm-hmm.
I think she passed away.
Yep.
And then the next game he balled out.
So you think there's just a little bit more motivation?
Yeah, definitely.
Makes
like
sense.
especially for me, like and like I know all the NFL players as well. Like if I was in the NFL, 111 yards.
Consistent 6-7 catch guy no matter what, but 111 yards on 8 catches. I was upset he didn't get in the end zone. We're frozen. But glad that he did still have a big day. All right, defensive player of the game. So I am going to give it to the defensive line. I think the defensive line, they were the most responsible for the pressure and the turnovers that happened because they were constantly in Howell's face, constantly making sure that he had to make fast decisions. That play by Epinesa was incredible, but all day just in the backfield, beating the offensive line of the Washington Commanders. I know they don't have a great O-line, but they were winning their one-on-one battles all over the place. Every single one of those guys, all 8 that rotate in, played phenomenal, and we're going to need them again this week. Without Von Miller being able to get pressure with that front four and not having to send extra blitzers, even though we did do that some with Washington, that is the key to not giving up the big plays in the back end. So I was very, very impressed with the defensive line. Greg Rousseau got his first sack of the year. That was good to see. I think Floyd added 2 more to his total. Ed Oliver got 1. Daquan Jones, like they all just played really, really well. So it was impressive to see the defensive line get that much pressure. 9 sacks altogether. That was an incredible day for them. Who's your defensive player of the game? I think this one's an obvious one.
My defensive player of the game is Terrell.
Yeah.
Terrell Bernard.
Yeah.
I would think most people would get confused with Bedford and Bernard.
We do that a lot in the games, right?
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure his name is Tyler Bedford.
Yeah.
Tyler Bedford and Terrell Bernard are 2 confusing names. So I almost said Tyler Bedford.
But what did you like about Bernard's performance against Washington? What was there not to like, right?
Bernard's performance was amazing. He had 2 sacks. His 3rd interception. His 2nd interception of the year. That's around what Tremaine Edmonds had in his best season with us. And
You're right.
so that's insane for a second year player that played, I think, not even a full game last year.
Yeah, he got some snaps, but I don't think he started any games.
So he's still basically in his rookie year. He missed I think he missed all of training camp and most of the preseason. So he didn't really get to review the playbook at all. That was extremely impressive. And so he had 2 sacks, and then he had a fumble recovery.
Yep.
And all out, he had an awesome day.
Yeah, I totally agree. He has been really impressive. The big hit on Tremaine Edmonds was always he couldn't make the splash plays. He couldn't come up big in those big moments. He could that interception Bernard had, for example, that was an unbelievably athletic play. Maybe Tremaine Edmonds with his lengths gets a hand on that ball and swats it down. He doesn't pick it off. You're right. The most interceptions Tremaine Edmonds ever had in a season for the Bills was 2. Bernard already has that. That was his rookie year. He never had a fumble recovery, which tells you how often he was not near the ball, which is scary for your middle linebacker. Like, he's the guy who should be near the ball most of the time. And for him to have 0 fumble recoveries, and Bernard obviously already has 1, really should have had 2 and a second one returned for a touchdown, but the refs did what they did. And I believe he led us in tackles again too. So just all around big day.
6 or 7 tackles.
Yeah, at least. I think he had 7 by like the end of the first half, but he had a lot either way. And then the back-to-back interceptions and the 2 sacks. The first sack, if you watch him, he's actually on a block in towards the middle of the offensive line, and he sees Howell start to roll out and gets off of his block with a guy much bigger than him, much stronger than him. And he meets Howell in the hole. And those are the exact kind of plays that Edmonds could not make for us. So really great to see him out there. I just saw a stat today that showed the worst QB rating when targeting linebackers. Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard are the top 2 guys there. QB rating when they're targeting Matt Milano, a guy Matt Milano's covering, is 28. That's just insane. Terrell Bernard is at 38. So both of them, obviously, right now, if you go by the stats, and I know it's only 3 weeks and we haven't played a great offense, but if you go by the stats right now, we have the 2 best linebackers against the pass in the NFL. And that's impressive considering Bernard's only making his 3rd start. All right, so let's move on now. We're going to move on to Factor Flag. I know this is always your favorite portion of the show. So for those of you who haven't been in here before, Factor Flag is essentially a trivia game. So I'm going to make a statement. If you believe that statement is true, you would type fact. If you believe that statement is false, you would type flag. And Mini Mafia here will wave the yellow flag if he believes it's false. So first statement. We all saw Miami put up 70 points, which is just crazy. Real quick, before I get into this statement, props to Josh Allen, who was asked in his press conference after the game about Miami putting up 70 points, and he didn't flinch. He was like, all right, yep, that we don't worry about that side of the ball. Props to keeping your cool, because you hear a football team scores 10 touchdowns in a game, and that's eye-popping. I don't care who scored it. I don't care like what team did it. Anyway, back to the game. In Miami's 5 highest scoring games prior to the Denver game, Okay, so the 5 times that they scored the most points in their organization's history, they are 1-4 the week after. So they score a bunch of points, and then the next week they've only won 1 out of 5 of those games. What do you think? Is that factor flag? And for you guys in the chat, please feel free to play along. Or if you're watching this after the fact, don't cheat. I mean, if you really want to cheat, go for it. But type if you guessed factor flag to question 1. So 1-4 following record-setting points.
Well, it depends on the eras, because the Dan Marino era, I believe that, yes, they would have won. But also, it was very hard to score that many points. So,
well, it was never as high as the 70. That's the highest they've ever scored. But just the top 5 times, like the top 4 or 5 points they ever put on the board. A lot of them were in the 40s, so they weren't nearly that high. But they were all throughout their history. There's some in the 70s.
Yeah, I think it's a fact.
You think it's a fact? All right. We have a flag here from 916. And 916 has you. It is a flag. They're actually 5-0 following a record-setting point production for them. So obviously that doesn't bode in our favor. It was a different time back then in the NFL. I don't think this is something that really speaks to what's going to happen this week. But I thought it was an interesting fact either way. So they're 5-0 when they set a record for highest point scored. All right. Question number 2. Again, 916, feel free to play along in the chat here. So Tyreek Hill, who called out Bills Mafia, by the way. So let's see how they greet him this week. Hill has not had much success versus Buffalo. In 5 regular season games, he only has 1 touchdown scored. 5 regular season games against Buffalo. Not all of them were in Buffalo. 1 TD scored. Factor flag. Um, 916, you said here, that's not what I heard. I heard they're 1-6. All I did was I Googled the top scores for Miami, and I went through it that way. And then I just looked up how they did the week after that, but I was only counting the 5 top anyway. So I could definitely double check my numbers here, but from what I could find, it was 5-0. So what do you think? Tyreek Hill has only scored 1 touchdown against the Bills in regular season. Fact. All right. And we have Sword Brother Joseph also agrees with you, a fact. And wait here for 1 more minute, see if anybody else answers. I'm going to pull this up real quick. And you guys are correct. That is a fact. So he actually he's had minimal production against the Bills. He averages 5.6 catches a game for 45.2 yards. So for any number 1 receiver, those are not impressive numbers. So maybe Tyreek Hill should worry a little bit more about his production on the field and not so much about what the fans are doing. I would recommend that to him moving forward, but to each their own, I suppose. All right, on to the final factor flag question. So are you 1 for 1? Right now is the number 1 third down offense in the league. So they're picking up a higher percentage of their third downs than anybody else in the league.
Fact.
Miami, that part is a fact. Miami's defense is ranked in the bottom 3rd of the league in third down percentage.
Is that also a fact?
That's the factor flag part. So Buffalo's offense is number 1. Is Miami's defense in the bottom 3rd?
Well, they don't really have. Well, they don't really have a very good run defense. I don't think they have a very good line. I haven't heard much about their line. So okay. I think that's a fact.
You think it's a fact? All right.
Because most teams run on third down.
Yeah. Sword Brother Joseph pointing out Kelsey, on the other hand, yikes. Yeah. Kelsey has had his way with the Bills. He's crushed us for sure. Kelsey's a different story, but Tyreek has been held down. So you said fact, right?
Yeah.
And we'll just give it a minute, see if anybody else wants to answer. So I have the dates here of those highest scoring games in case you want to look them up. So it's the game following the November 24th game in 1977. The game following the September 3rd game in 1995. Obviously, this one's in 72. They had a perfect season, so there's no point looking that one up. September 8th, 2002, and November 2nd, 1975. So it'd be the week after that each time. And from what I'm showing, they won all those games. So, again, if I made a mistake, feel free to correct it in the comments. I'll definitely look back into it. But from what I can find, that was correct.
Isn't that
Buffalo
7
defense
games?
is the real deal. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's 7 there, but I didn't read off 7. I agree. Now, we haven't been tested the way we're going to be tested this weekend, so let's see how they hold up. But the Bills' defense is the best defense Miami's faced so far this season, and I put that above the Patriots. Back to the fact or flag. So that is a fact. So you're 2-1 today. Congratulations.
Yay.
Miami's defense is ranked 23rd in the NFL. They're actually giving up a higher percentage of third downs than they're getting. So clearly the third down defense, even under Vic Fangio, is still trying to figure things out. Okay, so we're going to be done here with fact or flag. We are going to move on, just touch on it really quick because I feel like some of these could be very relevant. Before we do that, we're going to go through the injuries. But before we do that, let's talk about the Thursday night game. So not a game that has a lot of impact on the Bills. It's the Lions at the Packers.
I mean, it kind of does because, like, if the Packers do well, they're going to make it into the playoffs. Or, like, it depends on which team doesn't.
Yeah, but they're NFC teams, so it just doesn't really impact us. But always interesting to talk about football regardless. So who do you like tonight in Lions at Packers?
Well, I think the Packers are going to win. So far of, like, the highlights I've seen, like, just when I'm doing my chores and, like, the TV might be on or, like, what I've heard. Like if you guys are watching football, like, by what I've heard and, like, the highlights I've seen, the Packers have done well, and I think the Packers are going to win.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I think both teams came in with really different expectations this season. So, obviously, the Packers have done better than a lot of people expected. Detroit, I don't think people expected them to lose to Seattle. I think that was a little bit embarrassing for them. We have Mac Jenks here saying Aaron Rodgers should have stayed in Green Bay. Yeah, definitely should have stayed off of the MetLife field, right? So I personally, I think tonight's really a toss-up game. I do give the edge to Detroit because I think right now I like Goff a little bit better than Love. He's just has a lot more experience. I also really like the even without a David Montgomery or without 100% David Montgomery, I don't think he's playing at all. But I like the O-line for Detroit better and their ability to get the run game going. So I'm going to go with Detroit, but it would not shock me at all for the Packers to win. They've looked good. Jordan Love has looked good. I don't know how lucky that organization can be. You go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love looks like he's going to be good. They're just never going to know what it's like to be in that QB carousel that so many teams waste years and years and years with. But all right, so if you guys have any predictions for tonight's game between the Lions and Packers, please feel free to share them in the chat. We're going to move on to the injury report. We don't usually touch on this, but I do think that this could be really relevant for this week's matchup. Mom, yes.
Didn't Micah Hyde hurt his hand or something?
No. Diggs hurt his hand for a minute.
I know Micah Hyde. I think he might have hurt his leg or his ankle.
Yeah, we got a few guys on there that missed practice, but it doesn't look like anything super serious. So I'm just pulling it up real quick. The Dolphins have a lot more issues than the Bills do at the moment. I had it
especially because Jalen Ramsey's out, so Xavier Howard's going to be on Diggs.
So the Bills injury report, we have not practicing. We had Ryan Bates and Saran Neal. They're both backups. Not that we want either one of them out, but it's not the end of the world. We did have some starters sit out practice, though. I know Leonard Floyd and Micah Hyde. Why can't I get the most recent one? I believe they both missed Wednesday's practice. I think they were both limited today, but Jordan Poyer missed both practices. So hopefully they're all good to go. Apparently, Teron Johnson also out with or missing some limited in practice, with an injury. I had this pulled up and then it disappeared on me. So just give me 1 second here.
For Mafia Sports Report, Jordan Poyer has been out all week. So that's it's definitely a little concerning considering Jordan Poyer is one of our top defensive players on our team.
Yeah, so. I appreciate that, Mafia Sports Report. Like I said, I had it pulled up and then I lost it, but I have it back here now. So I do see here that, Reed Ferguson, Jordan Poyer, both missed today. Jordan Poyer also missed yesterday. Limited at practice were Ryan Bates and Saron Neal today. However, they did not practice on Wednesday. And then Leonard Floyd, Micah Hyde, and Teron Johnson did not practice, and Teron Johnson was limited Wednesday, but they were all full for Thursday. Jordan Poyer is a vet. If he's physically up for it, I'm sure he'll go. It doesn't scare me, him missing a week of practice. He's still going to be there in the meetings, I'm sure. He's still going to be mentally there. So I'm good with that. This is a game that I feel like I would really like to have a healthy secondary for. Unlike last week, I don't think it would have been the end of the world if we had been missing somebody. This week, I think it's a lot more important. Now, on the other side of it, Miami is not in as good a shape with guys missing practice. Yeah, he's out until December, so he's not even on the injury report right now. But we have River Craycraft, who is a wide receiver for them, who is an important factor with or without Waddle, but especially with Waddle being out last week. He has been a do not practice both Wednesday and Thursday. We also have wide receiver Eric. I'm not even going to attempt that last name. He's out with a neck. He's also a do not practice both Wednesday and Thursday. This is the big one for me. Jalen Phillips. I don't know if you guys remember the playoff game last.
Who is that guy?
Jalen Phillips is they play a 3-4, so he's like an edge rusher, linebacker, like a Von Miller. But Jalen Phillips was all over Allen last year in the playoff game. He even forced a fumble. He's a very good player. He's been a do not practice, and he's missed games already this year. So that's a big deal in Buffalo's favor if he doesn't play. We also have running back Ahmed. With a groin, he's been limited in practice. We have Teron Armstead, who's just hurt all over, back, ankle, knee. He did not practice and then limited on Thursday, so he's probably going to go. Is there anybody else important on here? We have Eli Apple. Eli Apple is full participant both days. And then they have a couple tight ends on here, Tyler Croft and Jillian Hill. And Durham Smythe. So all of them were either full or limited. So I don't think those injuries will so much wrap up, but Jalen Phillips is one I'm very focused on personally. So we're going to move along now. I know you don't have a lot to add on the injury front. Let's move along to the keys to the game. So what do you got going for the keys to the game?
My key to the game is the run game.
For offense?
Yeah, for the offensive key to the game, we need to get the run game going. If we don't get the run game going, I don't think we're gonna win this game if we don't get the run game going. We need to be a threat to the pass and to the run, not just Josh Allen. We need to get Latavius Murray, Damian Harris, and James Cook all in there. But like you were saying during the game last week, I know you guys haven't heard it, but she was saying that we need to have James Cook more effective in the second half when their D line is more tired and their entire defense is more tired, and we use Latavius Murray and Damian Harris in the first half to start wearing down their defense, so then James Cook can use his speed. Yeah, and so then he can score one from the outside and prove Diggs wrong because he's been teasing him about it.
Apparently Diggs and James Cook have been Diggs has kind of been poking at him saying, like, look, man, you're not going to get it on those short yardage. So if you're going to score, you got to do it from way out. And he almost did.
I mean, like, I do get it. Like,
they tried to give him a chance after that big run. Murray attempted a run, and then they tried to put Cook back in, but he couldn't get in the end zone.
Like, I do get it because Diggs and James's older brother, Dalvin, were teammates. So I'm guessing that Dalvin told him a lot about James.
Well, Cook is a smaller running back. He's not a guy that's known for going between the tackles. So, yeah, and they just, they all push each other to be better. I think that's a great key to the game for sure. The run game going just does so much, and it opens up so much on play action. But when I say play action, Ken Dorsey, for the love of I'm talking about play action under center. The play action from shotgun does nothing. No defenders move off their spot when Allen does that play action off of shotgun. That 4th and 1 that we went for, where Diggs was wide open and the defense got their hands in the way, that play goes very different if you just put Allen under center. When you have him back there in shotgun and he turns like he's going to hand off the ball, the defenders don't have to react to that. They get to just sit there and wait and see what he does. If they had put him under center and then bootlegged Allen out towards the sidelines, he would have had the choice to either dump that ball off for the first down or run it himself. But either way, you freeze the defenders for a minute. I am so sick of watching the play action from shotgun. It's pointless. All you're doing is taking an extra half a second to let the play develop. It literally does nothing to throw the defense off. If you're in a short yardage situation and you're going to run a play action, it needs to be with Allen under center. Set my piece there. Sorry, it was driving me crazy last week. All right, my offensive keys to the game are going to be, even though I expect Diggs to have another Diggs day, pass catchers other than Diggs need to step up. It cannot be Gabe Davis with one catch. I know he got the touchdown, but one catch for 35 yards is not enough from your wide receiver too. We need other guys to step up. Dawson Knox, Trent Sherfield, you're playing against your old team. Go out and prove something. Hardy, make a play. Other guys, Shakir, need to make an impact on this game. It cannot be all Diggs all the time. So I want to see the other pass catchers really have an impact in this game, including the running backs, because they made some plays this year too. And Gabe Davis needs to stop dropping the ball. Defensive key to the game. What's up?
My defensive key to the game is we have to put pressure on Tua. He's been sacked once this season. His nickname is Tua Injured to Play. He needs to fix the nickname. He needs to be going down more. I don't want to see anybody get injured, but he needs to get sacked. So honestly, I think our line is definitely good enough, especially without Teron Armstead in there.
I think he played last week. I think he's expected to play again.
Well, he might not be 100% at least. I think he wasn't 100% the last time he played them either.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but I don't think he was. So I really hope that Greg Rousseau can step up, and Oliver and Leonard Floyd and well, I forgot his name.
Daquan Jones.
Yeah.
AJ Epinesa. There's a lot of them.
All of them need to step up this week. Honestly, I say do we normally use 2 linebackers or 3?
2.
Honestly, I think that I think we should put one more guy on the line, and we only have one safety up there. I know that's a little risky.
I think that's a lot risky. I think the goal with Tua is to get pressure on that front 4 because they do have so much speed. And I love what you're saying. I think you're dead on, and that the defense has to get pressure to be successful, but you need to get pressure consistently without sacrificing the coverage in the back end. You can't, if you bring that extra guy up or you put a third linebacker in there on the line, you're leaving yourself basically one-on-one with Tyreek Hill and Trey White. And I love Trey White, but he's not running step for step with Tyreek Hill 40 yards down the field. And I think the reason why Tua's had success is because he's just been able to hurl the ball up, and there's been so much space between him and his receivers and the defenders that he's completing a lot of them.
Or we act like Poyer or Hyde are going to be coming up for a blitz. Mm-hmm. We psych out Tua, and then we have them drop back.
Yeah, I think disguising is good, or what's called simulated pressure. So simulated pressure is when, bless you, you still only rush 4, but maybe instead of rushing the 4 D linemen, bless you, you rush 3 D linemen and a linebacker, and you drop 1 D lineman back into coverage. That's a simulated pressure, which throws the offensive line off and confuses them and the quarterback. However, you're not sacrificing any coverage in the back end. So I would love to see that. I think another factor in the getting pressure on Tua is going to be interrupting the timing of the routes for the receivers. We're not a big physical secondary as far as getting up on the line and jamming the receivers. But I think with receivers as fast as the Miami receivers, I think that's something you have to do. So I would love to see them right in their faces and getting hands on them before they leave the line of scrimmage on each play, or on a lot of plays at least. that kind of leads into my defensive key to the game. I think the biggest defensive key to the game, other than the pressure, because I agree with you, that's number one, is you can't give up the big play, and you have to be sure tackling. I think Denver missed 24 tackles last week. Now, that is not the only reason why they lost they gave up 70 points, but you can't be missing open field tackles in these guys because they're going to pick up significant yards before somebody else gets to them. So wrapping up, sure tackling, and making sure that we're not giving up anything big, easy. If they're going to get a big play, make them earn it. Don't make it easy for them. Not 10 yards of space between Tyreek and the nearest defender. That drives me crazy. So that would be my defensive key to the game. Anything you want to add to that, to the offensive or defensive key to the game?
No, not really. Just like if we're back, like 10 yards off of Tyreek Hill, all he has to do is just run a short slant.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're doing that consistently, the head coach is going to know it. And then the offensive coordinator is just going to know it. He's just going to have Tyreek on a quick slant and then basically a free 10 yards.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys in the chat have any keys to the game that you want to share, please feel free to throw those out there. Chat seems a little quieter today than usual, so please feel free. Any opinions that you have, we'd love to hear them. So we're going to move on to the Josh Allen stat line. So we were both a little off last week on the stat line. We thought he was going to get a few more yards than he did. What are you thinking for this week, Minnie?
I am thinking he's going to get 273 passing yards. I think he's going to go 28 for 34, two passing touchdowns, and then 0 interceptions.
Okay, that would be a good day. You think he's going to run too? Not that you need run, like you don't have to give rushing yards, but you think he's going to have a good day on the ground too?
I think he's going to have like 25 and above. I think he might have like 1 touchdown just in garbage time, just to like ensure that we win and we don't like blood something stupid like we normally do.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm hoping we don't do that, knock on wood.
Allen is undefeated against Miami at home. He's had some of his biggest games of his career have been against Miami. I expect that to continue. Allen hasn't broken 300 yet this season, excuse me. I do think he's going to have 320 total yards. I don't know how many of those are going to be rushing and passing. I'd probably go high 200s for passing, like 290. But I think he'll have 320 yards total. I do, and this could be absolutely crazy. I just think he's due for a big game touchdown wise. I think he's going to have 4 touchdowns. I do think he's going to have 1 pick. I think it'll be a funky one or an acceptable pick, like the one we saw in the Washington game where it was essentially a punt. I can live with that. I don't think it's going to be a backbreaker or anything like that. So I'm calling for 320, 4 TDs, 1 interception. Anything else you want to add to that with the Josh Allen stat line or any other stat lines you want to discuss or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So we're going to move on to our hot takes. Now, we were both wrong on our hot takes last week. You did say that Rousseau was going to have 3 sacks. Now, he only had 1, but that defensive line showed up, and I think
9 sacks.
Right.
I wish I said Bernard for a sack and interception.
Yeah, that would have
I really wish I said
would have been interesting for sure. But
or at least an interception.
Either way, you clearly were on the right track that there was going to be a lot of sacks. You just had them attributed to the wrong person. I said Kincaid was going to score a touchdown. I think that his game got cut really short because he took a couple penalties early. One that was a legit penalty on the illegal motion. The other that was a bad call on the trip that put us back 15 yards. And I think they took some snaps away from him after that. So who knows what would have happened. But either way, I got it wrong last week. I did also say that I thought Poyer or Hyde would get a pick. That did happen. But it wasn't my hot take like the one I was focused on. So again, if any of you in the chat have a hot take to share, please feel free to put it out there. We'd love to hear what you have to say. You want to go first or second for the hot take?
I want to go second.
Okay. I know this is kind of boring, but I'm kind of grateful Kincaid didn't score last week because I really wanted him to get his first TD in the NFL in front of the home crowd. I am once again going with Kincaid gets in the end zone. Now, I am going to add something to that since that was my hot take last week, and there's a possibility I might keep picking that until he gets in because I just really feel like this guy's going to be good and he's going to score some points for us. My other hot take is, as Mini Mafia pointed out earlier, Tua's only been sacked one time this year. I see him getting sacked at least 4 times Sunday, and I think Milano's going to get one. So we'll see if we can get that kind of pressure on. I feel like Bernard's kind of showed up Milano a little bit last week, and those guys are competing. And now with 2 linebackers who can really rush the passer, I think it opens up a lot of exotic blitz packages and makes it harder for the offensive line and the quarterback to know where the blitz is coming from. So I think Milano is going to pick up at least one this week. What about you? What's your hot take?
I definitely think I'm just going to add on to yours really quickly before I say mine. I definitely think that Milano's going to have at least 1 sack. I think he might have 2 sacks. I think our maximum sacks is going to be like 10 sacks because of like the sack number that we had last week was insane. 9 sacks in one game, 2 coming from Bernard, and 2 coming from Floyd, and the entire D line was amazing. And Bernard and Milano are the first 2 levels were played out of their minds.
Yeah, they definitely had great games for sure.
And leading into mine, like I said, Bernard got 2 sacks last week and an interception. I think he's going to get a sack, at least 1 sack and at least 1 interception. That is a crazy amount because this would be his 3rd game in a row with an interception and a sack. Because I think he got a sack in the second game.
I don't think he had a sack in the second game, but a 3rd game in a row with an interception would be quite impressive for a first-year starter.
And a 2nd game in a row with a sack from a linebacker that's basically a rookie.
He's a first-year starter for sure. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I do think he's a lot faster than Tremaine Edmonds was. So Tua hasn't had to play us with this kind of defense. So let's see what happens. Either way, I want to see Tua under pressure. Even if the sack numbers aren't big, we've got to get in his face and we've got to make him rush decisions. And I could see an interception as long as we can keep that consistent pressure. All right, so on to the last part now. We are going to do our score predictions. Now, last week, I don't think anybody got it right. I don't think anybody was predicting 37-3. That was quite the score difference there. In the chat, please feel free if you have a score prediction or if you're watching this after the fact, down below, comment your score prediction. We'd love to hear from you. My score prediction, once again, I will point out, I know there's a first time for everything, but Allen has never lost to Miami at home. And I think that means something. I was very back and forth about this one. I could see us losing this game. Okay, I'll knock on wood again. I could see us losing this game, to be honest. And I don't think it's the end of the world if we do. Yes, we're 2-2 then. Yes, we're 0-2 in the division, which I think is the bigger deal. But I could see it happening. However, I am going to call for a 31-27 Bills victory. I think it's going to be a game that's going to come down to the wire like the last few have against Miami. It's going to be a hard-fought game. I'm hoping everybody leaves healthy, both sides. But I think Josh Allen is going to be the difference at the end of the day because I don't care what numbers Tua puts up. Tua is not Josh Allen. And I don't think anybody being honest would take Tua over Josh Allen in the league. So I think he's going to be the X factor as far as the guy who puts us over the edge this week. What about you?
Mine's a little less than yours. I think it's going to be 34-28.
There's a little more than mine.
Yeah, a little more. And I think that they're going to score 4 touchdowns. And I think we're going to score 4 touchdowns just like them. And then I think we're going to have an early field goal. And then coming down in the last 5 seconds, Tyler Bass, I think he's going to hit a 50-plus yarder, knock on wood. I think he's going to hit a 50-plus yarder to barely win us the game.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So again, if you're watching this after the fact, or if you think about what your score prediction is after we sign off, please put it in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think the score might be. Is there anything else you would like to add here before we close out for the night?
No, just remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Bills content.
Okay, and there's so many great shows on this channel. I know there's the AFC's breakdown that will be on Saturday, I think it is. Really great job. The Miami the Miami rep that's on there is very knowledgeable, and he really does a great job staying unbiased. So between him and Tommy from Mafia Sports Report, it should be a really interesting conversation this week. The other guys are great too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just focusing on them because we're facing Miami this week. So yeah, if you get a chance, check that out along with all of the other great content on this channel. Tommy really does a great job. Also, keep your eyes open. Mini Mafia will have his score prediction and a trick from Mafia Mutt that will be going up in a short before the game. So keep your eyes open for that. And yeah, until next time, everybody have a good week and go Bills.